Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up on a world where every breath is engineered, every drop of water is recycled, and every sunrise over a red horizon reminds you that humanity refused to stay limited to one planet. Imagine a city that thinks for itself, powered by the sun, built by machines, refined by data, and sustained by people who believe problems are meant to be solved, not avoided. This is not science fiction, this is a blueprint for the future, where energy is intelligent, life is sustainable, and civilization is redesigned from the ground up. Stay with me, because what life will be like on Mars will completely change how you see life on Earth. And the vision of life on Mars is built around the same principles that define Tesla on Earth. First principles: thinking, radical efficiency, and an unwavering belief that humanity thrives when technology is aligned with purpose. A Mars colony is not imagined as a science fiction outpost, but as a carefully engineered extension of civilization designed from the ground up to be sustainable, scalable, and inspiring. Every system from power generation to housing would be optimized for performance, reliability, and minimal waste, because on Mars inefficiency is not just expensive, it is existential. And daily life would begin with energy. Solar arrays would stretch across the red terrain, paired with advanced energy storage systems capable of delivering consistent power through dust storms and long Martian nights. Energy would not be wasted, it would be measured, stored, reused, and optimized in real time by intelligent software. Residents would grow up understanding energy not as something that simply comes from a wall socket, but as a precious resource that must be produced responsibly and used intelligently. This mindset would shape behavior, culture, and even architecture, embedding sustainability into everyday decisions. And housing would reflect a balance between safety, comfort, and efficiency. Structures would be modular, pressurized, and designed to be assembled rapidly using both prefabricated components and locally sourced materials. Interiors would feel minimal, but warm, emphasizing functionality without sacrificing human comfort. Natural light would be simulated to support circadian rhythms, while shared spaces would encourage collaboration and social connection. Living on Mars would demand resilience, but it would also prioritize mental well-being, recognizing that long-term success depends on more than survival, it depends on quality of life. And transportation within the colony would follow the same philosophy that revolutionized mobility on Earth. Electric rovers and autonomous vehicles would move people and cargo efficiently across the surface, guided by advanced navigation systems that learn and adapt to the environment. Inside, the habitat movement would be streamlined, reducing unnecessary travel through smart layout design. Over time, these systems would evolve, becoming faster, safer, and more autonomous, freeing residents to focus on exploration, research, and innovation rather than logistics. And work on Mars would not be defined by traditional job titles, but by problem solving. Every resident would contribute to maintaining and improving the colony, whether through engineering, science, agriculture, medicine, or software. Automation would handle repetitive and dangerous tasks, while humans would focus on creativity, strategy, and continuous improvement. The culture would reward curiosity and initiative, encouraging people to question assumptions and redesign systems that no longer serve their purpose. Failure would be treated as data, not defeat, accelerating progress through rapid iteration. And food production would be a cornerstone of self-sufficiency. Advanced hydroponic and aeroponic systems would grow crops efficiently using minimal water and recycling nutrients in closed loops. Diets would be designed for health, efficiency, and morale, combining practicality with variety. Over time, agricultural systems would expand, experimenting with new crops and techniques to increase yield and resilience. Food would not just sustain the body, it would become a symbol of independence from Earth and a reminder that life can flourish even in the harshest environments. And education on Mars would be immersive and hands-on. Children would learn science, engineering, and mathematics not as abstract concepts, but as tools they see applied every day. They would understand physics by watching vehicles operate in low-gravity, biology by tending to crops, and computer science by interacting with the systems that keep the colony running. Learning would be continuous and adaptive, supported by AI-driven platforms that personalize education and encourage lifelong curiosity. This environment would naturally produce thinkers and builders capable of pushing humanity further into the solar system. And healthcare would be proactive and data-driven. Wearable technology and continuous monitoring would detect issues before they become serious, while advanced diagnostics and telemedicine would connect Mars residents with expertise from Earth when needed. Medical facilities would be designed for efficiency and redundancy, ensuring that care remains available even in emergencies. Health on Mars would be viewed holistically, integrating physical, mental, and environmental factors into a unified system of well-being. And communication with Earth would be seamless despite the distance. High-bandwidth links would allow for data transfer, collaboration, and cultural exchange, maintaining a strong connection between planets. Entertainment, art, and shared experiences would evolve to reflect this new reality, blending Earth's cultural heritage with the unique perspective of life on Mars. Over time, a distinct Martian culture would emerge, one that values innovation, responsibility, and a deep appreciation for the fragility of life. And governance within the colony would prioritize transparency, efficiency, and adaptability. Decision-making would be informed by data and guided by long-term goals rather than short-term convenience. Systems would be designed to scale as the population grows, ensuring that expansion does not compromise sustainability or safety. Rules would exist to protect the mission and the people, but flexibility would remain essential, allowing the colony to respond quickly to new challenges and opportunities. And ultimately, life in a Mars colony would represent the next step in humanity's evolution, not an escape from Earth, but a commitment to its future. By proving that a self-sustaining civilization can exist on another planet, the colony would demonstrate what is possible when technology, responsibility, and vision align. The lessons learned on Mars would flow back to Earth, improving energy systems, transportation, agriculture, and governance at home, while inspiring a new generation to think beyond limits and build boldly toward what comes next. And the flow of innovation would continue to accelerate as the colony matures, with systems learning from every interaction and optimizing themselves continuously. Artificial intelligence would serve as the invisible backbone of daily life, balancing energy loads, monitoring environmental conditions, and coordinating logistics with precision beyond human capability. Rather than replacing human decision-making, these systems would augment it, providing insights and predictions that allow residents to act faster and smarter. Over time, the colony would become a living network where every component communicates with every other, reducing friction and maximizing efficiency. And manufacturing on Mars would redefine how products are made. Instead of long supply chains dependent on Earth, advanced fabrication facilities would produce tools, replacement parts, and even new habitat modules locally. Additive manufacturing would use refined Martian materials to create strong, lightweight components, minimizing the need for constant resupply. This approach would not only reduce cost and risk, but also foster a culture of self-reliance and innovation. When something breaks, it would not be shipped from millions of kilometers away, it would be redesigned, improved, and built on site. And as the population grows, the social fabric of the colony would evolve around shared purpose. People would come from diverse backgrounds, united by the challenge of building something unprecedented. Collaboration would be essential, not optional, shaping a culture where ideas are valued over hierarchy and results matter more than titles. Communication would be direct, data-driven, and focused on outcomes. This environment would naturally attract individuals who thrive on responsibility and challenge, reinforcing a cycle of excellence and progress. And energy systems would expand beyond solar, integrating new technologies as they prove viable. Nuclear options, advanced storage chemistries, and even experimental power generation methods would be tested and refined. Redundancy would be built into every layer, ensuring that no single failure could compromise the colony. Energy abundance would unlock new possibilities, from expanded research facilities to more comfortable living conditions, while maintaining the discipline of efficiency that defines the mission. And the relationship between humans and the Martian environment would deepen with time. Exploration would not be limited to survival zones, but would extend outward, mapping terrain, studying geology, and searching for clues about the planet's past. These efforts would be driven by curiosity and science, but also by practical needs, identifying resources that can support further expansion. Each discovery would feed back into the colony's systems, informing design choices and long-term planning. An economic activity within the colony would be purpose-built rather than inherited from Earth. Traditional concepts of currency and trade would be reimagined around contribution, resource management, and long-term sustainability. Value would be measured not just in output, but in resilience and impact. This framework would encourage innovation that strengthens the entire system, aligning individual incentives with collective success. And the influence of Tesla would be evident in how problems are approached. Start from fundamental truths, challenge assumptions, and iterate rapidly. Solutions would not be constrained by how things have always been done on Earth, but guided by what makes sense in a new environment. This mindset would permeate every aspect of life, from engineering to education to governance, creating a society that is adaptable by design. And cultural expression would flourish in unexpected ways. Art, music, and storytelling would reflect the unique experience of living on another planet, blending the stark beauty of Mars with human creativity. Shared experiences, whether communal meals or collaborative projects, would strengthen bonds and provide balance to the intensity of the mission. These moments would be essential, reminding residents why the effort matters and reinforcing a sense of belonging. And over time, the colony would transition from a frontier outpost to a thriving city, with neighborhoods, research districts, and production zones carefully planned to optimize flow and safety. Expansion would be deliberate, guided by data and long-term vision rather than short-term urgency. Each new addition would be tested, refined, and scaled, ensuring that growth enhances stability rather than compromising it. And the psychological dimension of living on Mars would be addressed with the same rigor as engineering challenges. Isolation, confinement, and distance from Earth would require proactive strategies to support mental health. Design choices, social structures, and technology would work together to create an environment where people can thrive, not just endure. Continuous feedback would inform improvements, making the colony more humane and resilient with each iteration. And knowledge generated on Mars would have profound implications for Earth. Advances in energy efficiency, closed-loop life support, autonomous systems, and sustainable manufacturing would be shared, accelerating progress across industries. The colony would serve as a proving ground, demonstrating what is possible when constraints force innovation and focus. This exchange would reinforce the idea that becoming a multiplanetary species is not about abandoning Earth, but about learning how to care for it better. And as generations are born and raised on Mars, their perspective would reshape humanity's understanding of itself. Growing up under a different sky with different physical realities, they would develop new ways of thinking and problem-solving. Their identity would be rooted in exploration and responsibility, carrying forward the values that made the colony possible. Education and mentorship would ensure that this culture remains strong, adaptable, and aligned with the mission. And the long-term trajectory would point toward expansion beyond Mars, using the planet as a stepping stone for deeper exploration of the solar system. Lessons learned here would inform future colonies, reducing risk and accelerating timelines. Mars would become not just a destination, but a foundation for humanity's next chapter, proving that with the right mindset and technology, boundaries can be redefined. And every aspect of life in the colony would reinforce a simple idea: progress is the result of deliberate design, relentless iteration, and a willingness to take responsibility for the future. By building a civilization that is sustainable, resilient, and innovative from the ground up, the colony would stand as a testament to what can be achieved when vision is matched with execution, and when humanity chooses to build boldly in the face of the unknown. And as infrastructure becomes more sophisticated, the focus would shift toward long-duration optimization rather than short-term survival. Systems would begin to anticipate needs weeks and months in advance, adjusting production maintenance schedules and resource allocation automatically. Predictive models would simulate thousands of future scenarios, allowing the colony to prepare for rare events with precision. This proactive approach would reduce uncertainty and stress, creating an environment where residents can plan confidently and innovate without constant crisis management. And water management would evolve into one of the most refined systems ever built. Every molecule would be tracked, purified, reused, and conserved through closed-loop processes that approach near-total efficiency. Ice mining operations would extract water from beneath the surface, while advanced filtration and recycling systems would ensure minimal loss. Water would be treated not just as a utility, but as a strategic asset, shaping settlement locations and expansion strategies. This discipline would influence daily habits, reinforcing a culture of awareness and responsibility. And as scientific research accelerates, Mars would become one of the most valuable laboratories in human history. Experiments impossible on Earth would be conducted routinely, taking advantage of lower gravity, unique radiation conditions, and extreme environments. Discoveries in materials science, physics, and biology would emerge from this setting, pushing knowledge forward at an unprecedented pace. Research would be deeply integrated into daily life, with findings rapidly translated into practical improvements across the colony. And the integration of robotics would reach a level where human-robot collaboration feels natural and intuitive. Autonomous machines would handle construction, maintenance, and exploration, operating continuously without fatigue. Humans would guide strategy and design, while machines execute with speed and precision. This partnership would amplify productivity and safety, allowing the colony to grow faster while minimizing risk. Over time, robots would adapt to the environment in ways that make them uniquely suited to Martian conditions. And as manufacturing capacity expands, the colony would begin exporting knowledge rather than physical goods. Design, software, and processes developed on Mars would be transmitted back to Earth and beyond, influencing industries across the solar system. Intellectual output would become one of the colony's most valuable contributions, demonstrating that distance does not limit impact. This exchange would reinforce interplanetary cooperation, aligning progress across worlds. And the influence of Tesla would continue to shape how systems are evaluated and improved. Performance metrics would be transparent, visible to everyone, and updated in real time. If a system underperforms, it would be questioned, redesigned, or replaced without attachment to legacy decisions. This relentless focus on improvement would keep the colony agile, ensuring that it never stagnates or becomes complacent. And urban planning would reflect lessons learned from decades of Earth-based development, avoiding inefficiencies and congestion before they arise. Living, working, and recreational spaces would be carefully balanced to reduce travel time and energy use. Green spaces, both real and simulated, would be integrated to support mental health and creativity. The city would feel purposeful, clean, and quiet, defined by flow rather than noise. And as communication latency with Earth becomes a fact of daily life, decision-making authority would increasingly reside locally. The colony would operate with a high degree of autonomy, guided by shared principles rather than constant oversight. This independence would accelerate progress, allowing rapid responses to challenges and opportunities. Trust in local expertise would be essential, reinforcing accountability and ownership at every level. And crisis response systems would be designed with redundancy and simplicity in mind. When failures occur, protocols would prioritize clarity and speed, minimizing confusion. Training would be continuous, ensuring that every resident understands their role in emergencies. This preparedness would create confidence, reducing fear, and enabling people to focus on long-term goals rather than worst-case scenarios. And the environmental footprint of the colony would remain a central consideration. Expansion would be deliberate, minimizing disruption to the Martian surface while maximizing efficiency. Data collected from environmental monitoring would inform decisions balancing exploration with preservation. This respect for the planet would reflect a broader philosophy. Progress does not require exploitation, but thoughtful stewardship. And cultural norms would continue to evolve, shaped by the realities of living on another world. Time would be measured differently, routines adapted to new rhythms. Celebrations and traditions would emerge organically, reflecting milestones unique to Martian life. These shared experiences would strengthen identity and continuity, especially as the population grows more diverse. And education for adults would be as important as education for children. Continuous learning would be embedded into daily routines, with opportunities to reskill and cross-train as needs change. This flexibility would ensure that talent is always aligned with the colony's priorities. Knowledge would be treated as a shared resource, freely exchanged and constantly updated. And health optimization would extend beyond treatment into prevention and enhancement. Nutrition, exercise, sleep, and mental resilience would be monitored and refined using data-driven insights. Personalized recommendations would help individuals perform at their best while maintaining balance. This holistic approach would maximize both productivity and quality of life. And as infrastructure stabilizes, attention would turn toward aesthetics and comfort without sacrificing efficiency. Design would evolve to reflect human creativity, introducing color, texture, and variation within functional constraints. These details would matter, transforming habitats from purely utilitarian spaces into places people are proud to call home. And the legal and ethical frameworks governing life on Mars would be shaped by necessity and foresight. Policies would be tested against real-world outcomes and adjusted as needed. The emphasis would remain on fairness, safety, and long-term sustainability, avoiding rigid structures that cannot adapt to change. This flexibility would be critical as new challenges emerge. And interplanetary logistics would become more predictable, enabling long-term planning for population growth and infrastructure upgrades. Launch windows, cargo priorities, and resource flows would be optimized with precision. This reliability would reduce risk and cost, accelerating expansion while maintaining safety margins. And over time, the colony would become a hub for innovation that attracts talent motivated by purpose rather than comfort alone. People would come not just to live on Mars, but to contribute to something larger than themselves. This shared mission would remain the colony's greatest strength, aligning individual effort with collective progress. And the continuous refinement of systems, culture, and technology would ensure that the colony remains resilient in the face of uncertainty. Every challenge would be approached as an opportunity to learn and improve. This mindset would define life on Mars, creating a civilization built not on perfection, but on constant evolution. And as the colony reaches a level of operational maturity, experimentation would no longer be limited to technology alone, but would extend deeply into social systems and human potential. New models of collaboration would be tested in real time, refining how groups solve complex problems under pressure. Teams would be fluid, forming and reforming around challenges rather than rigid roles. This adaptability would allow the colony to respond quickly to shifting priorities, ensuring that talent is always applied where it creates the most value. And the role of data would become even more central. Every process from agriculture to habitat maintenance would generate continuous streams of information. Advanced analytics would identify inefficiencies invisible to the human eye, suggesting micro-adjustments that compound into massive gains over time. Residents would develop a shared literacy in data interpretation, empowering them to engage with systems intelligently rather than passively. Transparency would build trust, as everyone can see how decisions are made and how resources are allocated. And as the colony's capabilities grow, it would begin to influence mission planning far beyond its immediate environment. Deep space probes, asteroid missions, and experimental propulsion systems would be designed, tested, and coordinated from Mars. The planet's position and conditions would offer unique advantages for exploration, turning the colony into a strategic hub for solar system expansion. This shift would mark a transition from settlement to leadership, with Mars shaping humanity's outward trajectory. And the philosophy of rapid iteration would continue to guide development. Prototypes would be built, tested, discarded, and rebuilt with speed and precision. There would be no stigma attached to redesigning systems from scratch if better solutions emerge. This willingness to abandon outdated approaches would keep progress aligned with reality rather than tradition. Continuous improvement would not be a slogan, but a lived experience embedded in daily routines. And human adaptation to Martian gravity would become an area of intense study. Exercise regimes, medical monitoring, and biomechanical research would aim to maintain long-term health while exploring the possibilities of adaptation. Insights gained here would reshape understanding of the human body, influencing medicine on Earth and informing future space settlements. The colony would become a living experiment in human resilience and flexibility. And the expansion of agriculture would move beyond sustenance into optimization and diversity. New plant varieties would be developed specifically for Martian conditions, maximizing yield and nutritional value. Closed-loop ecosystems would grow increasingly complex, supporting not only food production, but environmental stability. These systems would blur the line between natural and engineered environments, demonstrating how life can be guided to thrive under extreme constraints. And civic participation would be encouraged through open feedback mechanisms and collaborative problem-solving platforms. Residents would have direct channels to propose improvements, report issues, and contribute ideas. This inclusivity would strengthen engagement and accountability, ensuring that governance remains responsive and grounded. Decisions would be evaluated based on outcomes, not intent, reinforcing a culture of responsibility. And the influence of Tesla would be visible in how risk is approached. Calculated risk-taking would be seen as essential to progress, provided it is informed by data and aligned with long-term goals. Safety would remain paramount, but fear of failure would not be allowed to stall innovation. This balance would enable breakthroughs while preserving stability. And as communication delays with Earth remain unavoidable, cultural independence would deepen. Media, entertainment, and storytelling would increasingly originate on Mars, reflecting its unique perspective. Shared narratives would help define identity, reinforcing values of exploration, sustainability, and collaboration. This cultural confidence would support psychological well-being, especially for those born on the planet. And the physical layout of the colony would continue to evolve, guided by usage patterns and human behavior. Spaces would be reconfigured based on how people actually interact rather than how designers initially predicted they would. This responsiveness would make the environment feel intuitive and supportive, reducing friction in daily life. Architecture would become a dialogue between human needs and engineering constraints. And as more children are born and raised in the colony, education systems would adapt to a new normal. Learning would be deeply integrated with real-world challenges, fostering problem solvers rather than passive learners. Mentorship would be central, with experienced residents guiding younger generations through hands-on projects. This approach would ensure continuity of knowledge and values, strengthening the colony's future. And environmental monitoring would expand to include long-term planetary impacts. Data collected over decades would reveal how human activity interacts with Martian conditions, informing ethical frameworks for expansion. This awareness would guide responsible growth, ensuring that exploration does not come at the cost of irreversible damage. Stewardship would be treated as a core responsibility, not an afterthought. And the economic framework would continue to evolve, prioritizing resilience over short-term efficiency. Resource allocation would account for uncertainty and risk-building buffers that protect against disruption. Innovation would be incentivized not just for profitability, but for its contribution to system stability. This approach would create an economy aligned with survival and growth in a hostile environment. And health sciences would advance rapidly as the colony gathers unprecedented longitudinal data on human adaptation. Preventive care would become increasingly precise, tailored to individual genetics, activity levels, and environmental exposure. This personalization would improve outcomes while reducing resource strain. Lessons learned would transform healthcare practices across Earth-based systems. And as the colony's confidence grows, ambition would scale accordingly. Larger infrastructure projects would be undertaken, pushing the limits of what can be built in low gravity with local materials. These efforts would test new construction techniques and materials, expanding the frontier of engineering. Successes would validate approaches that can be replicated elsewhere in the solar system. And the psychological relationship with Earth would gradually change. While connections remain strong, Mars would no longer feel like an outpost but like home. This shift would influence priorities and perspectives, anchoring identity in the present environment rather than distant origins. Pride in what has been built would coexist with gratitude for the knowledge and resources that made it possible. And every advancement would reinforce the same core principle: progress emerges from alignment between technology, human values, and long-term thinking. By continuously refining this alignment, the colony would remain adaptable, resilient, and forward-looking. Each day would build on the last, not through grand conclusions, but through steady, deliberate evolution driven by curiosity, discipline, and a shared commitment to shaping the future.